Some of you have been asking me how to pronounce the names of the Viking Forefathers and the Nordic factions in the game. Now keep in mind that we are not entirely sure how these different names were pronounced. There aren't too many good audio recording or YouTube videos from the time to tell us how people spoke. However, it's pretty clear that all the people in Scandinavia at the time spoke something like this. Burk, 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 burk. So now that we have that out of the way, we can get back to the real issue, and that is we don't really know how people spoke in Scandinavia at the time. We can make some pretty good educated guesses by how people speak. We know how they spoke, but the specific pronunciations aren't... It won't be an exact science. However, we do know that people on Iceland speak the closest language to Old Norse out of any of the Scandinavian languages. Norwegian and Danish are pretty close to each other. Swedish is a bit different. But the Old Norse, the West, the East Nordic Old Norse spoken is very closely related to Icelandic. Iceland has kind of remained the most proud or the most isolated, I guess you could say, among the different among the Scandinavian countries. So let's jump right into it. The way to pronounce Viking, the modern Norwegian word Viking, is the exact same word as the English Viking. However, if you want to pronounce it in Old Norse, it's going to be Vikingliger. Vikingliger. And in terms of, let's see if we have other names that are specific. Yeah, we have the herdman. In Norwegian it's hirdman, and in Old Norse it would be something like hirdmother. Hirdmother. Or hirdmother. Something along those lines. I'm not an expert at this, I just have a very bare bones understanding of it. And then we are going to have the Nordic axe warriors, and of course, if you want to have an alternative pronunciation of the Danish axe, it's not called a Danish axe here, it's called skjeggøks, which means a bearded axe. And skjeggøks can both come in one-handed and two-handed varieties. They are called skjeggøks because of the protrusion at the bottom that looks sort of like a beard. Then we have of course, the Vikingliger raiders and the Norse berserkers, and you would say berserkers would be something like berserker. So it's very close to each other. Then we have the Threitel, or the Thrall skirmishers, Threitel. A note about the Threitel is that in modern Norwegian it's called a trell. In Old Norse it would be something like Threitel. And every single man, woman, child could be a Threitel. There were a few different ways you could become a Threitel. It's not exactly like a slave. It is an owned person, so it is, in that way, it is sort of like a slave or a serf. It's a man, woman, or child who isn't free in society. Captured during war, for example, or if they have run into debt they cannot maintain. If they've lost all their possessions, they might become a Threitel under another man's rule, or another family's rule, or indeed another woman's rule, because women could hold possessions in the Old Norse societies. So, Threitel is how you pronounce the thrall, or if you want to go with the modern pronunciation, it's going to be trell. Let's see, no other unique units. And then we have the Jutes. We have the Viking captain, of course, Nordic raid leader. Then we have the hirdmother, of course. And huskarls, or in modern Norwegian, it's huskarer. Huskarer. In Old Norse, it's going to be Huskarlar. 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 That sound is very difficult to pronounce. It's sort of trying to make a rolling sound with your tongue. Huskarlar. 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 And that's the plural, so huskarls or huskarlar, huskarlar, and the single form of the word is going to be huskarlar. Huskarlar. Yeah. Okay. If you want the Nordic pronunciation of bowman, it's going to be bogskyttarmaður, or in modern day Norwegian, bueskytter. So you can hear the difference is quite substantial in how the modern day Norwegian sounds compared to the Old Norse. So bogskyttarmaður and bueskytter. Pretty substantial differences there. No other unique units. The Saxons have some unique units. They have the Thane, or the chieftain. Thane is an Old Norse word as well, an old Germanic word. So this would be Thane with, I'm not sure what that would be, Getrith. So it's not Gedrit, it's Gedrith. And then we have the Saxon spears, of course, Nordic spear masters and such. Gesithas, I'm not sure how to pronounce that actually. I don't know what that word comes from, and I haven't researched it enough to want to try to pronounce it. So that is basically it in terms of the various Old Norse words you can pronounce in the game. Saying the Anglo-Saxonized versions of the words is absolutely fine as well. I'm not going to even try to educate myself about all the different kinds of ways to pronounce the words in this game correctly. But since some of you thought it was fun to hear the Norwegian and the Old Norse translations of these words, I figured I'd just make a short video about it. So anything else that you want to know or you would like me to cover about the Old Norse stuff, let me know. Strength and honor, styrke og ære.